I'm Mel. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm so happy that you're here. So grab a seat, get comfortable, because we're going to have some real conversation. We're going to laugh a little, think a little, and hopefully leave here a little better than when we came in. So let's dive right in. I do have a question. When was the last time that you made a decision that changed your life? And I don't mean like one of those big decisions. I mean, one of the small ones, one of the quiet ones that nobody knows but you. When was the last time? Because when I look back at my own life, I realize that it wasn't always the biggest decisions, the loudest ones, the ones that everybody knew about that changed my life. It was the smaller ones, the intimate ones, the decisions I made on my own that I only knew about. And those moments, they shifted something inside of me. I decided that I didn't want to think the same anymore. I didn't want to do the same things that I used to do in the same ways anymore. I wanted more. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in wanting more for your life. And it's not because life isn't good already, but it's because you're still growing. Life is about growth. And when you stop growing, I don't know. I can't speak for you, but I know for me, when I stopped growing, I just felt stagnant. I felt like something was missing. And it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. And before you start wondering, no, this is not a podcast where I'm going to pretend that life, I have life all figured out, because I don't. I don't. And some days I have it all together. I do. Some days I feel like I have it all together, okay? But some days, I don't. I'm proud some days that I can find my keys or my phone or where I put my coffee. So this is not about pretending to be perfect. It's not. It's about having conversations that really make us think, really wake us up. Because sometimes I feel like we're walking in a dream and we're like on autopilot and we do the same things over and over again, over and over again. And we don't even think about it, right? I believe that we spend a lot of time waiting for life to change us, waiting for something big to happen, like this big decision that we have to make that's going to change our lives. Waiting for the right opportunity, the right timing, the right circumstances. But what if the life that we've been hoping for, that we've been waiting for, begins the moment that you make a different decision? That's the tricky part, or at least it was for me. Because I used to think that the decisions that were going to change my life were the big ones, the huge ones, the ones that everybody knew about, everybody remembered. But they weren't. It wasn't. Looking back, that's not what changed me. And you know what's interesting? Some of the most important decisions in our lives don't happen in big dramatic moments. At least they didn't for me. I've learned that the biggest decisions I've ever made, I didn't even realize I was making them at the time. That's crazy, right? But if I'm going to be honest, yeah. Every time I told myself maybe someday, every time I convinced myself to wait, every time I settled for something that was familiar instead of reaching out for something that was possible, I made a decision. And here's the part that really changed what I see things. I realized that not deciding is deciding. Go figure, right? And I wonder how many years of our lives are shaped not by the choices that we intentionally make, but by the ones that we make without even stopping to ever question them. Things that make you go, right? I wonder. I wonder. I think that's why I finally decided to start this podcast because I needed to. It was a decision that I hadn't made. I was waiting for the perfect time. I was waiting for, makeup artists and, the right, I don't know. I was just waiting for it to be perfect. And I realized that we're not meant to be perfect. Life isn't meant to be perfect. Just think about the last time that you saw a movie that was perfect and that you didn't find boring. Because the juiciness of life is in the imperfections, in the nuances, in the things that happen that you don't expect, right? And I get emotional because this is a realization that it's so small, or we think is so small, that we fail to realize that these are the decisions that are changing our lives. These small decisions that we make daily. So I don't have all the answers. I don't. And trust me, if you stick around long enough, you'll probably watch me figure a few things out in real time. But honestly, I'm okay with that. I am. Because this isn't about pretending to be perfect, it's about being willing to grow. I hope this becomes more than just a podcast. I hope it becomes a conversation. Um, don't be afraid to leave me a comment to tell me your perspective, to let me know what resonates with you. Um, Tell me something different, how you see it, because we all see things differently. And I don't just want to learn from my experiences, I want to learn from yours too. We don't all see the same things, we all have different perspectives. And I have a feeling that we'll all leave a little wiser if if we listen to each other, if we learn from each other. And every now and then, hopefully, we can laugh at ourselves because you know what? If we can't laugh at ourselves at the dumb things that we do sometimes in life, or the things that life throws at us, then I don't know, we're missing half of the adventure right there. So before I leave you with this one question, I do want to touch on fear because that was something that really confused me. Fear, because it's so sneaky, right? Fear, um, we hear people say all the time, you like, don't let fear stop you, right? Don't let fear stop you. And I used to be like, well, what the hell does that mean? Like, I'm not letting fear stop me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm I'm not fearless, but I do the things that I say I'm going to do most of the time, and I go after what I want, right? Um, But I think the better question is this fear trying to protect me? Or is this fear keeping me from growing? Because those two things can feel a lot alike. And sometimes, fear is wisdom. It tells us to slow down, to pay attention, to gather more information, and that's good. But sometimes fear is simply the voice that's familiar, right? It tells you, stay here, you're safe, okay? At least you know this. So when I ask you, what decision are you going to make today? I'm not asking you to ignore your instincts. I am asking you to be honest with yourself. Is there a decision you've been avoiding because it's truly not the right time? Or because it's scary? Because I've learned that most people aren't waiting for a miracle. Believe it or not, most people are waiting for permission. You know how I know? Because I was one of them. Waiting for permission at my age, you would think, right? At any age. We're waiting for permission to leave, permission to begin, permission to forgive ourselves, permission to dream again, permission to choose differently. And it's time to give yourself permission. If you haven't yet, then let this be it. Let this be your invitation. Okay? You don't have to know what comes next. You don't have to know the next 5 years, the next month. You don't have to have your whole life figured out. But you do have to decide whether you're willing to take that next step. Because lives don't change all at once. They change one decision at a time. Maybe today your only decision is to believe that your story isn't over. And maybe today the decision isn't to change your entire life. It's simply to stop standing in your own way. Stop looking back at who you were and start paying attention to who you're becoming. Because none of us know exactly how much time we have. But we do know is that we have this moment, this day, this time, this choice, this opportunity to do something different. And I think that's where the magic happens. Not in some perfect future version of ourselves, not in the life that we keep imagining we should have had, but right here, right now. A different life begins with a decision. And today, I made mine. I decided to start this podcast. What decision are you going to make today? Whatever it is, I hope that you don't let fear make that decision for you anymore. I'm Mel. I'll see you again next time in the Reinvention Room.